Hello, I'm Garett Beaver with Adventure Mazda, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Today I'm going to tell you about the new SKYACTIV technology from Mazda. Basically, what is SKYACTIV? Well, Mazda engineers were instructed to throw away everything they knew about limitations on what they could get out of the power of an engine. And by doing so, they were told that the sky was the limit. Hence, here comes the name SKYACTIV. The SKYACTIV basically is the best way for Mazda engineers to get the economy and performance out of the engine that they had to work with. And in doing so, they had to do away with the limitations of the fuels, of the power, of the pistons, of basically the driveline of the car. Another thing, SKYACTIV had to be accessible to all. Now, you can get the performance if you want to go buy a Mustang or a Z01 Camaro and spend $50,000. You can get the economy. Chevrolet's got a Volt out, 100 miles per gallon in some cases, if you want to spend the $45,000 necessary to do so. But Mazda had to build this car and make it accessible to everyone. Basically, if you can qualify for a car loan, you can get their technology. And along with this, they had to qualify and meet the future EPA guidelines. They put everything out here and says, here's what we're going to do and here's where we're headed. Turned into a great product for us. Basically, it starts with the gasoline engine. Mazda engineers had to figure out how to extract the absolute most power possible out of every drop of gasoline. And to put this in layman's terms, a drop of gasoline, you could associate it to a spring. If you take a spring and compress it down about halfway, it springs out a little. Take the same spring, same drop of gas, you compress it down all the way, and then it springs, hey, it could reach the ceiling. Well, that's what they wanted to do, is get the most power out of every drop of fuel. To do so, they had to increase the compression, just like pressing that the spring down. Mazda engineers developed the engine with 12.1 compression ratio. That's something that's unheard of with today's fuels and everything. You may hear of it in Corvettes, Ferraris, Lotus, some of those high-end sports cars, but they all require 99, 100 octane fuel for optimum performance. Mazda knew they had to do the same thing with 80 to 87 octane fuel. They did this by developing the piston that they come up with. Standard engines have a flat top piston in there, so when the power explodes in there, it's just floating around and just pushing it down in a gradual motion. Wherever it pushes, it pushes. They developed a pop-up type piston that has a volcano type surface on the top of it. Much like in the water bottle here, instead of flat, it's got a raised area that has a center port right here that controls and directs the spark and the power to where they want it to go. What this does is eliminates the heat buildup throughout the piston, which reduces the heat, controls the power, controls the spark, i.e. more power directed down. And by controlling the temperature, they eliminated the spark associated with 87 octane fuels. Now besides the piston, they had to get the fuel there. And instead of the older cars where the fuel went in upstream and floated down through a hot intake around the valves and into the cylinder head, they went with advanced direct port injection. They actually put the injector in the center of the combustion chamber to spray directly in there. That cooled the fuel drastically too, eliminating more of that knock that you hear. With a cooler charge, less knock. They use a lot of pressure. They put actually 2,600 pounds of pressure to go through these injectors to atomize the fuel better. And instead of one little hole squirting in there, it has 6 holes that actively puts the fuel in there, vaporizes it better, for more fuel control precise. Down along, you've got about a 4% increase in power with the engine and transmission. Now that's another thing here. The electronic shifted transmission we have now. It's called the SKYACTIV drive. They wanted to come up with a transmission that was effective as a manual, but shifted as easy as an automatic. How they did this was a new torque converter design. It works under 5 miles per hour, and then you have dual disc clutch in there that lock up above 5 miles per hour, so you get the sportiness feel of a manual transmission. What this does for you is it's easier to drive because it feels better and it works better all the way through the RPM range. As I said earlier, 4% increase with those two things really make it a great driveline for the car. Also, in the car, the body structure. They've gone with a lot more high tensile strength steel to make the car more rigid, so the suspension they designed works a lot better as well together. Together with the engine, the transmission, the body structure, and the suspension, we really do have an affordable and economical, fun car to drive in the sport compact segment.